When I first subscribed to book boxes, I thought they would be the perfect way to rediscover my love for fantasy books. Gorgeous special editions, exciting new reads, and all of that delivered straight to my door. But now I cancelled all of my subscriptions. Let me share why it just didn't work anymore for me and what I'm doing instead. So hello my fellow fantasy book lovers and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi and welcome. My name is Kathy and I'm a fantasy book lover from Belgium. And for today's video, we're diving into the world of book subscription boxes, and more specifically, why I quit my subscriptions for both Fairy Loot and Illumicrate after being subscribed to them for quite some time. Now, before I start, I want to say that I still think that book subscription boxes are an amazing concept. For a lot of people, they offer incredible value and of course, easy access to special editions. But for me, they just stopped being the right fit, and here's why. So why did I subscribe in the first place? When I first got into book subscription boxes, I was rediscovering my love for fantasy reading after a long break. A friend of mine actually had both subscriptions, both Illumicrate and Fairy Loot, and actively recommended them to me. And I actually was on the waitlist for both of these subscriptions for a little while before I actually got accepted and started receiving the boxes. So when I got the subscriptions, I didn't know what was new, what was good, what was trending, or where to even start. And then of course the allure of the special editions, redesigned covers, special artwork, the edges, the spray painted edges that are beautifully done, all of that only made it more attractive for me to get. Plus, of course, I love the idea of someone handpicking the books for these boxes, because most bookstores around me didn't really have someone who specializes in fantasy who could recommend me books that I would want to read. And then of course, for a lot of people, there's also the merch factor. Now, I personally never got the editions with the merch. The two boxes behind me are the bigger boxes. It's because they contained multiple books from separate orders, but I never got into the merch of this bookish box. Now, you can get both Fairy Loot and Illumicrate with bits and bobs that are bookish themed included. Now, for some of you, this might be a great idea. I feel if you want to have book merch that is really exclusive to these editions, you can really get them. But for me, it would just add a lot of clutter to my home that I didn't need. Because let's face it, every box has 5 knickknacks more or less. And I feel like if I would even like one of them, over a year, that would be 12 knickknacks to use somewhere in my home. Now, what I do instead is if I see something from an unboxing that I really want, which is like 1 or 2 items a year, then I will look secondhand for them. And that means that yes, I will pay a little bit more for maybe a coin or like a bookmark that is in the form of a sword, but I personally don't mind. I prefer having less things or very like curated things just for me than to having an assortment of things of books and series that I maybe haven't read. So if I started off loving these book boxes, why did I quit? Over time, I noticed that from the books that arrived to my doorstep, I wasn't actively reading them. To this day, I think I have maybe read 2 books from my Illumicrate subscription and 5 books from my Fairy Loot. And considering I have over 12 books from Illumicrate and over 24 books of the Fairy Loot subscription, that is not a lot of books that I've actually read. I noticed that these books, even if they are fantasy, they are not specifically the fantasy books that I would have purchased myself in store. So while some of the choices were fantastic, a lot of them were unfortunately misses for me. And what I've also noticed over the years is that more and more publishers are making special editions of their books. So for me, that specialty factor of the subscription box actually fell away. So I was essentially paying for books that I didn't pick myself and didn't really want to read a lot of the time. What I also noticed is that a lot of people are getting these subscriptions and a lot of people are actually selling their subscriptions secondhand. So a lot of the books that I didn't have an interest in and didn't want to read but still received because I didn't pause my membership, I have a very hard time reselling them because so many people are reselling them. So I have to go under the value that the book is actually worth. However, now that I've cancelled my subscription, this works in an advantage. Every time I do want want a specific book, I just have to look up on the secondhand platforms. I personally use Vinted, and I can find them for around the same price as they would have originally been in the subscription, or sometimes even lower. Especially if it's a YA book, I feel like a lot of people have the YA subscription but don't really like it. So the YA books I can find for 20 euros or less, and the cost, of course, is one of the reasons that I stopped my subscriptions. For each book, I ended up paying, with taxes and shipping included, between 35 and 40 euros, which is the price of a brand new hardcover special edition in almost every store. And most of these, to this day, still sit on my shelf unread. That's a lot to spend on books I'm not 100% excited about. Another reason that I cancelled my subscription is that in the meantime, I have discovered options that are better to me and that are local to me. I have a Waterstones store in Brussels that has an amazing employee called Emily who specializes in fantasy books. So every time I go there, I can just ask her about the books that are new, the books that I want to read. And of course, she'll be able to recommend me from what is actually in store and available, and the cost is less than the subscriptions. Now, of course, since I started reading again, I've also been active on BookTube. So I've been seeing a lot more recommendations from other booktubers, also on BookTok, of course. So for me, it's easier to stay into the loop of knowing what is new, what is releasing, what is coming out. And I actually noticed that I'm placing a lot more pre-orders for books that I'm actually excited about. And if I'm not going to Brussels, there is a store in Ghent. It's called Standaard Boekhandel, and on its own it's not really a special bookshop, but the Ghent Kouter location is a rather big one that recently got a separate section of fantasy, with YA fantasy and adult fantasy mixed in together, with both Dutch and English also mixed. I don't like that part as much, but they have a lot of special editions that I didn't know of before. So publishers are investing a lot more money into these special editions to make them available to everyone. So getting special editions is also a lot easier than it was before. And honestly, I don't need a special edition of a book that I'm not certain of I will enjoy. So now, unless it's an author I know and love, I will either get a normal edition or a paperback or even an e-reader copy before I will actually decide if I want a special edition or not. Now, there will always be exceptions to this, and of course I will still be getting special editions, especially if they're super easily available. And of course, if I really enjoy a book, I can always hunt down a specific special edition later. I was lucky enough to find a special edition of Immortal Dark of the Owl Crate editions, which here in Belgium are even less frequently available than Illumicrate and Fairy Loot, for the same price that a subscription would have cost me, which to me is mind-blowing, and I'm really happy that I can find very specific special editions secondhand. That said, I feel like subscription boxes are still an amazing option for a lot of people. If you don't have access to bookstores that have a good fantasy selection, or if you simply want to collect the special editions. Because these book boxes can be a magical experience, and especially now that we're getting the more specialized book boxes as well. Fairy Loot, for example, has 3 different ones. It has the young adult one, it has the adult fantasy, and it has the romantasy. And Illumicrate is having a similar system with, I believe it's called Afterlight. So most subscription boxes are making it easier to find what you're actually looking for. And honestly, from the romantasy books from Fairy Loot, I've really enjoyed quite a few of them. Even if I don't have the subscription, afterwards I'm very tempted to start looking them up. But for me, I realized over the years that it wasn't aligning with what I wanted from my books anymore, so I decided to quit both of my subscriptions. And what about you? Are you subscribed to one of the book subscription boxes, and are you considering quitting, or are you new to all this and are you wondering if you should get onto one? Let's chat about it in the comments. I would love to hear your experiences. And of course, if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I make new videos every week and I would love to have you for every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching. Happy reading, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!